Squirrel Nutkin. So, last time we met, we were reading about Squirrel Nutkin. Excuse me. And he was being really silly and impolite to Old Brown. And Old Brown is that owl. And so let's see where we are this time. Down here. They gave some mice to Old Brown, and Squirrel Nutkin's being silly. The other squirrels are getting nuts. And then they gave a mole to Old Brown, but Nutkin was poking him and tickling him with a nettle and being very annoying and just playing with little berries and stuff. And then another day they bring minnows, which are little fish, and give those to Old Brown. And they brought beetles to Old Brown, which are these bugs, a kind of bug, not the music, not the band The Beatles, but a beetle, the bug. But Squirrel Nutkin just played and played and played. So he's not helping the team find food for their village. So let's start here. We can continue on the 5th day and see what they give to Old Brown. And do you think Squirrel Nutkin will start to be friendly and polite? Probably not, right? Okay, give me some coffee first. Okay, so here we go. On the 5th day, the squirrels brought a present of wild honey. It was so sweet and sticky that they licked their fingers as they put it down upon the stone. They had stolen it out of a bumblebee's nest on the tippity top of the hill. But Nutkin skipped up and down singing, hum-a-bum, buzz, buzz, hum-a-bum, buzz. As I went over Tipple-tine, I met a flock of bonny swine, some yellow-nacked, some yellow-backed. They were the very bonniest swine that e'er went over Tipple-tine. Okay, so, whoops. Squirrel Nutkin, again, is being very silly and not being nice to the other, or to Mr. Brown. Okay, give me 1 second. Okay, so on the 5th day, the squirrels brought a present of wild honey. Let's use purple today. So we know the word a present. This is the same as a gift, right? No difference. Usually no difference. I can't think of a difference, but a present, a gift, it's the same thing. The 5th day, the squirrels brought a present of wild honey. Now, why is it wild honey? Wild doesn't mean crazy. It means out in nature. So that means they didn't buy the honey at a store. They got the honey from bees in the forest. It was so sweet and sticky that they licked their fingers as they put it down upon the stone. This is a very common grammar pattern. I think we learned this before. So, blah, 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 that, blah, blah, blah. I'm having trouble with my mouse. I need a new mouse, I guess. So it was so sweet and sticky that they blah, 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 blah. This is really common. You are saying, the word so is kind of like very, but it's not exactly the same. It means it's very sweet and sticky, and it makes something happen. It was so sweet and sticky that they licked their fingers. So you could use this for a lot of things. An adjective, and then the action that it causes. It was so hot that everyone wanted ice cream. I was so tired that I wanted to sleep all day. Or I was so happy that I bought a gift for all of my friends. Okay? So adjective, that, and then the result of the adjective. Like what that made you do. So it was so sweet and sticky that they licked their fingers as they put it down upon the stone. As just means at the same time as, right? They licked their fingers at the same time they put the honey down on the stone. You can see it here. Oh, can you? Well, it looks like they're licking their fingers, but whatever. They had stolen it out of a bumblebee's nest on the tippity top of the hill. I don't know why this is italic. So when words are sideways like that, it's called italic. When you use when you're typing something on your computer, it's like a I that's a little bit crooked. But that I, let's see if I can do this. Here we go. There we go. So you'll see an I like that. When you're typing, the I is short for italic. Italic. So I'm not sure why bees is italic here, but sometimes when something's italic, we want to say it stronger. They had stolen it out of a bumblebee's nest. That doesn't really work here, or I don't understand why the author put it that way in this sentence. But usually, when you see italic, the author wants you to say that word stronger. Can I think of an example? Let's see. He was so hungry that he could eat a horse. So why would we put the horse in italic? Well, it's kind of silly, so you want to say it stronger. He was so hungry that he could eat a horse. If it's normal, if it's not italic, you just say, he was so hungry that he could eat a horse. It's less strong, it's less interesting. So italic, he was so hungry that he could eat a horse. And like, you're showing that you're shocked. Like, oh my God. Okay, so that's usually why we use italic. They had stolen it out of a bumblebee's nest. So a bumblebee is a kind of bee. And it's a big fat bee. Usually this one up here on the right. And bumblebees, I mean, it looks scary in this picture, but they're these fat, fluffy, furry bees. And they're not very dangerous. They usually don't sting people. So if you see a bumblebee, like it's fat and fuzzy, don't worry about it, just leave it alone. So they had stolen it out of a bumblebee's nest on the tippity top of the hill. Tippity top. Well, the top of the hill is the top of the hill. Tippity top just means the very top. The very, very top. And it's just a cute way to say the very top. So what do I mean by the very top? Let's say our hill is like this. Maybe you'd say this is the top. But where is the tippity top? The very, very, very top. The highest point. Okay? Okay. But Nutkin skipped up and down, singing. So he's skipping, like a little bit like jumping. Hum-a-bum, buzz, buzz. Hum-a-bum, buzz. As I went over Tippletine, I met a flock of bonny swine. So this first part is just being silly, but buzz, buzz, that's the sound that bees make, right? Hum-a-bum, buzz. As I went over Tippletine, I don't know what this is. Maybe it's a place, because the went over Tippletine. It's not important, but because it's just a silly rhyme, but it might be a place because he went over to it. And then, as I met a flock, well, okay, so what do you think this is about? It's probably about bees, right? They went to the top of the hill, and he's saying buzz, buzz. It's about bees, but because he's being silly, the words he's using are a little bit funny. So I went over Tippletine. Maybe he's talking about the hill, right? He went over it. He went over the hill. I met a flock of bonny swine. Now, this is a little bit tricky because the words sound different than what they probably mean. I met a flock. A flock is a group of animals that fly. So usually a flock of birds. I'll put it down below. Not a flock of bird, I just forgot an S. A flock of birds, or a flock of geese. So it's a group of animals that are flying together. And so if it's flying together and we're talking about buzz, buzz, maybe he's talking about the bees. But usually we don't use the word flock for bees. And then also, I met a flock of bonny swine. Swine is another word for a pig. Okay? So, or like a boar. A boar is a shanzhu, a mountain pig, a boar. But we use the word swine for anything that's like a pig or a boar. In the word bonny, that's very uncommon, but it means beautiful. It's a very old-fashioned word. I met a flock of bonny swine. So a group of flying animals and their pigs. Nutkin's being silly again, but what do you think he's talking about? Well, he's singing about the bees probably, but just being silly about it. Some yellow-nacked, some yellow-backed. So this is where we think, oh, it must be the bees. Yellow-nacked is just, I think, a silly way to say neck. Like their necks are yellow. And he's just saying it funny to make it rhyme with backed. And the back means the back of the animal. So some yellow-nacked, some yellow-backed. Not completely sure about that, sorry. I don't want to... Well, do I look it up? I'll look up nacked. Let's see. Yeah, nothing on Google for nacked, so I think I'm right. I don't know everything, but it should be just necked, this part, but rhyming with backed. So, they were the very bonniest swine that ever went over Tippletine. So, like we said, bonny means beautiful. So the bonniest means most beautiful. So they were the very bonniest swine. So they were the most beautiful pigs. that error went over tipple time. Error is an old way to write ever. You might see this sometimes. The apostrophe just gets rid of the V. That ever went over tipple time. So same thing we said before, going over the hill. So they were the most beautiful pigs that went over the hill, is what he's saying. So he's just saying a silly poem, but probably being mean about the bees and calling them pigs, flying pigs. Because Squirrel Nutkin's kind of a pain in the butt, right? Okay, let's keep going. Old Mr. Brown turned up his eyes in disgust at the impertinence of Nutkin, but he ate up the honey. So he turned up his eyes in disgust at the impertinence of Nutkin. So let's wait on turned up his eyes. That's what he did. Well, his eyes went up. Okay, what does that mean? Why would his eyes turn up? Well, in disgust. You probably know the word disgusting. Disgusting is like something's yucky or gross or not nice. So in disgust is when someone feels like something's disgusting or terrible. Okay? So Old Brown makes this face in disgust at the impertinence of Nutkin. So we talked about this. This is rudeness, being rude or impolite. So old Mr. Brown turned up his eyes in disgust at the impertinence of Nutkin. So he's like, oh, geez. So turned up his eyes. We would say now rolled his eyes. He rolled his eyes in disgust. That means his eyes go up and back and he just can't believe what he's seeing. Okay? But he ate up the honey. Okay, so he thinks Nutkin's ridiculous, but he's still gonna eat the honey. Okay. The squirrels filled up their little sacks with nuts. But Nutkin sat upon a big flat rock and played ninepins with a crabapple and green fir cones. So the other squirrels go to work. Nutkin sat upon a big flat rock, see here, and played ninepins. Ninepins. This is not a common word, but you can imagine. Look at the picture. What is he doing? Well, he's bowling. So Squirrel Nutkin is bowling when everyone is working hard. So in bowling, the things that stand up are called pins. So the old name for bowling was ninepins, or maybe it's a kind of bowling. Okay? And so he played ninepins with a crab apple. So it's a kind of apple that doesn't taste very good. So a crab apple is if you get an apple and it's not sweet. Maybe it's really sour, so you don't want to eat it. So just bowl with it. Okay? So he played ninepins with a crab apple and green fir cones. So cone is the thing that comes out of a tree. And a fir is a kind of tree. So usually we hear about pine cones because a pine tree is a common kind of tree and the cones are what come off of them. When I was growing up, we had pine trees and pine cones everywhere in the fall. So Nutkin is not working hard. He is playing a game. He's bowling. Pretty funny. So let's just stick to doing one day today. We saw day 5. Next time we'll see day 6, where they bring an egg to Mr. Brown and then see how he feels about Nutkin dancing like a fool. So let's review what we read today, and then we can stop for now. Okay. On the 5th day, the squirrels brought a present of wild honey. It was so sweet and sticky that they licked their fingers as they put it down upon the stone. They had stolen it out of a bumblebee's nest on the tippity top of the hill. But Nutkin skipped up and down singing, "Hum-a-bum, buzz, buzz, hum-a-bum, buzz. As I went over Tippletine, I met a flock of bonny swine. Some yellow-nacked, some yellow-backed. They were the very bonniest swine that e'er went over Tippletine." Old Mr. Brown turned up his eyes in disgust at the impertinence of Nutkin, but he ate up the honey. The squirrels filled their little sacks with nuts, but Nutkin sat upon a big flat rock and played ninepins with the crabapple and green fir cones. And then next time we can read about day 6. And maybe sometime Mr. Brown, Old Brown, will be angry at Nutkin. So that's it for today. Thank you everyone for joining. I hope you appreciate this practice and have a good time learning something. And I will see you next time. Thank you everyone. Bye-bye.